All right, let's dive right in. We're going to take one of the most familiar rules in human history, you know the one, thou shalt not steal, and we're going to crack it wide open. Because believe it or not, hidden inside that simple command is this revolutionary idea about wealth, hardship, and maybe even the whole point of our lives.
I mean, we all think we know what this means, right? Super simple. Don't take stuff that isn't yours. But honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We're about to explore a meaning that's so deep, so profound, it could literally change how you see the world. I'm talking about success, failure, the very idea of justice.
So to even begin to get our heads around this, we have to look way beyond the obvious stuff, like taking someone's wallet. The very first step is to throw out our old definition and think much, much bigger about what stealing actually is.
See, the core idea we're digging into today is that our everyday understanding of stealing is just incomplete. It's not just about a physical action, like pickpocketing. No, this concept is way more expansive and, to be honest, it's a lot more challenging to think about.
Okay, so here's the new definition we're going to use. Theft isn't just about taking something. It's any action that ends up causing material loss or damage to someone else. You see the difference? The focus shifts from your intent to the outcome. And that one tiny shift, well, it changes absolutely everything. All right, so if causing harm is our new definition, how does that actually play out in the real world? Well, this next part dives into a really modern and, let's be honest, pretty controversial idea. That you can actually gain wealth without working for it, and that this could be a form of theft.
I mean, just think about that for a second. If causing material harm is stealing, could you be a thief just by participating in a system, even if you never physically take anything from anyone? The argument we're looking at today says, emphatically, yes, you absolutely can.
And this quote, wow, it just frames the whole issue with so much power. It draws a straight line from something that seems abstract, like financial speculation, right, to the human cost. Just think about it for a minute. When housing prices go through the roof, one person's massive unearned profit can literally mean another family gets priced out, can't afford a home anymore. From this ethical viewpoint, that profit isn't harmless at all. It's a gain that's been pulled directly from someone else's well-being. It really creates this chain reaction, One person's huge gain, especially if it's made without creating any real value, is directly tied to someone else's loss. This isn't like a simple one-on-one transaction. It's a structural imbalance. The system itself is set up to let wealth flow from the vulnerable to the speculator, and that's exactly what this idea calls structural theft.
Okay, so this brings us to a really fascinating split, a kind of two-sided coin. And the first side we're going to look at is this idea that having advantages, things like wealth or talent, isn't a prize to be celebrated. It's actually a heavy, heavy responsibility.
In Korea, there's this really popular way of talking about this, the gold spoon versus the dirt spoon. The gold spoon, that's someone born with all the wealth and privilege. The dirt spoon, someone born without any of that. But the philosophy we're exploring today, it flips that completely on its head. In this view, the gold spoon isn't a blessing, it's a burden. And the dirt spoon, that's not a curse, it's a qualification for something important.
So, for the gold spoon folks, the thinking goes like this. All those gifts you have, the money, the talent, they're not actually yours to keep. Think of them as being on loan. They've been entrusted to you for a very specific purpose, to serve and lift up your community, especially the people who weren't given those same advantages. And that famous quote, about the camel in the eye of a needle, it's not a condemnation of wealth itself, not at all. It's a really powerful warning against the attitude of just hoarding it for your own comfort. See, the danger isn't in having the resources. The danger is in failing to use them for the mission they were given to you for. And this is not just some abstract philosophical idea. Let's look at a real-world example. The Gyeongju Choi family, one of the wealthiest in all of Korean history. They literally lived by a motto that said, "Let no one starve within 100 li of our home." They saw their massive fortune not as their own property, but as a kind of community trust fund. And they took that responsibility seriously. That is the burden of the gifted in action. So that takes care of the gold spoon. But what about the other side of the coin, the dirt spoon? Well, this next part explores a really radical idea for anyone who starts with nothing. That your hardship isn't just hardship. It actually contains a sacred mission. Now, this might be the most counterintuitive and honestly, the most powerful idea in this whole explainer. What if we stop seeing suffering, poverty, or hardship as a curse or a sign that you've failed? What if it's actually a form of training, a qualification for a unique purpose that only you can fulfill? The main example used to illustrate this is the story of the Israelites. Think about it. Their 400 years of slavery in Egypt, it wasn't just a long period of suffering, it was a profound education. It forged inside them this deep gut-level understanding of what injustice feels like. And that very experience, that suffering, became their qualification. It was the foundation of their covenant to go out and build a world that protects the weak and the vulnerable, because they knew, firsthand, what it was like to be them. So, in this light, the dirt spoon is totally redefined. It's not a mark of shame anymore. It's a badge of qualification, a badge of honor. It means you've been given a unique gift, the ability to truly, deeply empathize with pain. And because of that, you're uniquely qualified to fight for a more just world. It's not a curse, it's a calling.
Okay, for our final section, let's bring all these incredible ideas together. It's time to really challenge our basic definitions of what it means to be blessed and what it means to struggle.
Now, this framework of responsibility, it really applies to everyone. The argument goes that if you're perfectly able to work, but you choose not to, and you just depend on others, well, that's also a form of theft. You're taking from the community's resources. And true charity isn't just about handouts, it's about empowering people to stand on their own 2 feet. But, and this is a really critical point, for those who truly, genuinely cannot help themselves, it's the absolute core duty of the community to step in and provide that support.
What we're looking at here is just a radical shift in perspective. I mean, the conventional view usually says wealth is a blessing, a reward, and hardship is a curse, a punishment, right? But in this new framework, it's completely flipped. Wealth is a test, a burden of responsibility. And hardship? That's a forge, shaping you for a unique mission.
And this all leads to maybe the most provocative, the most shocking statement of all. This quote just turns our entire idea of blessings upside down. Think about it. If wealth is this profound test of your character, then boasting about your material blessings is kind of like bragging about how hard your final exam is and how likely you are to fail it by being selfish. It's just a stunning, stunning reinterpretation.
So when you put it all together, thou shalt not steal isn't really a negative command about what you shouldn't do. It's a positive, active, and really demanding call to action. It's a covenant, a promise, to use whatever you have and even whatever you don't have as a tool to help build a more just, more compassionate world. And that leaves us with a final, really big question for you to think about. If any of this is true, if wealth can be a path to judgment and hardship a path to purpose, then how will you measure your life? The goal isn't just to get more stuff. The real questions are, what responsibility have I been given, and what mission am I uniquely qualified for? That's something powerful to reflect on. Thanks for joining me on this one.